Hey, we welcome you into the Pioneer Sports Network, where I get an opportunity to introduce you to our new soccer coach. He is Kyle Hughes, who comes to us from Presbyterian. First of all, Kyle, welcome to Tusculum, and thanks for being here. And what are some of the things that kind of really attracted you here at Tusculum?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. This is such a great opportunity. For me, this is my first head coaching job since I left Spartanburg Methodist a few years ago. So I'm excited to be here. This is probably one of the, I would say, one of the premier teams over the last couple years that you could kind of come in and this could be your first job to kind of take over in Division II. So this is a great opportunity. And I'm just excited to get started.
Kyle comes to us from Presbyterian, as I talked about, which was one of my old rivals back in the day. I won't mention anything about that. But, just some of the building blocks for you at Mars Hill. So you're familiar with the South Atlantic Conference for a couple of years as an associate head coach there. And really during their, kind of crest, they kind of really blossomed to the top of the South Atlantic Conference, played for a conference tournament championship. Then he goes over to Gardner-Webb as an assistant and then to Presbyterian as an assistant and coached 3 all-conference guys while he was there. You're familiar with some good programs, and the things that you have learned along the way. What can you bring here to Tusculum with some of that stuff that you have been able to learn along the way since being a head coach?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, just having an understanding of the conference, from my time at Mars Hill, as you mentioned, is huge. This is, to me, one of the top 3 best conferences in Division II men's soccer. Greg Munn is a great friend of mine. We were able to do great things in such a small amount of time at Mars Hill. But just, understanding the landscape of what's needed from a player perspective, the way you need to be able to play within this conference,
Right.
And just how you need to be able to recruit each and every year. That's really going to set the foundation going forward to at least have success. Greg and I, we went 11-6-3, and we made it to the conference tournament final. We don't want to speak about that final. Shout out to Coker. Michael Antonovich is a great friend of mine. But we understand what's needed each and every year in terms of what we did there. But I think now that has kind of helped propel me into this position to kind of come back, seeing the division, even the Division I landscape, to be able to come back and say, hey, I've kind of had a well-rounded last few years at a couple different spots to be able to bring in those high-caliber players, and definitely want to get back to winning ways within the conference.
This is a conference, obviously being used to that. There's some familiarity, with that. As a head coach, you won 64 games at Spartanburg Methodist. Was that 4 years?
4 years.
So for 4 years doing that, at what I consider one of the premier junior colleges, when you're there, you're in such a hotbed of soccer too, because you talk about the South Carolina area, the upstate maybe of Florida, Georgia, and some of those areas, and some of the guys that you can bring in internationally as well. How do you feel as if that also prepared you, being that head coach, being in that situation at one of those premier junior colleges, got you to the spot too?
Yeah, I really, I'm proud of my background in starting at a junior college. I think that was really kind of what helped laid the foundation for me, and just understanding how to be an assistant coach, but also understanding how to be a head coach too as well. You learn a lot in terms of the expectation of what's needed. You kind of get baptized really quickly because you don't really have a lot of help in terms of assistants. I know they've kind of restructured that a bit now, but when I was a head coach, they really didn't. I didn't have a lot of help. So you learn how to do each and every role within your position really quickly. But just learning the landscape of also recruiting. You're recruiting from the Southeast. Obviously within this conference, you're going to be recruiting a lot of kids from the Southeast too as well. So that experience definitely helped me, and I take great pride in coming from Spartanburg Methodist. The JUCO life is a very tough life, not only as a player but also as a coach. So that definitely can help. A young coach coming into the game. Kind of prepare you a bit more for these future jobs.
He comes out of North Greenville University. He played at Spartanburg Methodist, went to North Greenville and played there and finished up, and then jumped right into really some club coaching. And I think, honestly, when you're talking about Carolina elites, you're talking about one of the elite clubs around. And I can't think of his name. It's killing me that I can't think of it. I want to say Bruno, but that's not who it is.
No.
Who is there. But one of the great guys to me. And I think, from a soccer perspective, the knowledge that he can bestow and the style that they taught, how did that help you as well going into the club level, I think, right before you jumped into the collegiate level.
Yeah, that really allowed me to kind of see, what direction I wanted to go into. Pierce Tormey and Andrew Hislop.
Pierce.
Yep, they run Carolina Elite Soccer Academy, which is one of the premier, soccer clubs, and not only in the Southeast but in the nation.
Yeah.
They allowed me to come in there and to be able to kind of hone my skills, kind of figure things out a bit with certain high level teams, but also I kind of started off within the junior academy there to kind of get my feet wet and kind of see what direction I wanted to go into. But I just think, just for soccer coaches, especially young soccer coaches out there, that kind of helps set the tone, get an understanding of, training, understanding of players, how to manage parents. So that definitely plays a big role into the last 10 years or so within my soccer coaching career.
I wanted to follow up with you while you're at Spartanburg. I mean, you're doing a lot of different things. Are you striping the field, and are you cutting it at the same time there?
At Spartanburg Methodist, no, we did have to line it though.
Okay.
We did have to line it a little bit.
We got people that can handle that here too.
Yeah,
just in the event you need to know
Right.
those types of things, which is also great. Kyle comes to us again as this is closing in on, I'll date myself a little bit, and Dom, almost the 30th year. We're closing in on 30 years for me. So we were sitting there discussing it. There's been 9 coaches here at Tusculum as the soccer coach, and really 4 in my tenure here. And Tony Kostanka and Brett Teach, and then longtime coach in Alan Vitale, who has just left to go to ETSU. As an alumnus too, Tony and also Alan as alumnus here at Tusculum. It's a huge, you've talked about it already, just the history, the lineage of this program, long time longevity, I think is another thing. What does that mean to you? I mean, you're kind of following in some footsteps for some guys who have laid some really good foundation here at Tusculum and what they've been able to do and what they've been able to teach. What do you do? How do you jump into this? What's the excitement level, and where do you go forward right now?
Yeah, one of the big question marks I get a lot is, especially within my, I've been to, so many schools over the last 10 years. I've been to 4 different schools over the last 10 years, and I've just been dying to be at a place where I can stay there, for the most part, where everything kind of aligns, whether that comes from, the certain things going on behind the scenes. I definitely want to be able to set some roots down here, to be able to stay here for a while. Following in the footsteps of Alan, we just from experience and being in this conference before, what type of team Alan can bring to the table. So just following in the footsteps of his program, I've heard a lot of great things about Alan behind the scenes. I've had the pleasure of meeting Alan, when I started at Mars Hill in 2020. And, he's kind of been somebody that I've now can lean upon. And so that's great, him just being right down the street at ETSU. He's definitely down to offer any help that he can give me, looking, within this job. But for me, just to follow in those footsteps, what can I do? What is the type of history I'm looking to make here, within my tenure here? And, like I said, I want to set these roots down. I want to be able to stay as long as I possibly can. But we know what that comes with a lot of things. You got to win. I have to make sure the students are doing what they're supposed to do on and off the field.
Right.
And that's a lot. So, that's the challenge ahead, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's a soccer community, no question about it. It's a hotbed here, for a lot of people, and we'll support it as well. There's got to be excitement. Obviously, I can hear that coming from resonating from your voice. What is your expectation? What do you want to see? Where do you want to put Tusculum?
Well, coming off an 8-5-3 season, I believe, they didn't qualify for the conference tournament. I want to make sure that is first and foremost something that we achieve going into the season right off the bat, getting into the conference tournament. And then also I want to make sure we continue to have that winning record. Maybe we can up that winning record by, a couple games. We'll see how that goes during the season. The SAC is very, very crazy, as you know. But then I want to get to the point where, we're winning the conference tournament. We're going into the NCAA tournament, and we're competing for national champions. And that's something that I want to be able to bring here.
Hey, congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
He's Kyle Hughes, the newest coach for the Tusculum men's soccer program.